Everyone eats meat because everyone eats meat.
Wow.
That's a really powerful message. You know, you don't question it when everybody around you is doing the same thing.
So I saw this PETA billboard. It said something like, if you wouldn't drink milk from a dog, why do you drink milk from a cow? And people were outraged that how can anyone make this comparison?
I'd love to know whether that's effective. I'm not sure that's the best strategy. What do you think?
I don't know. I think India is the highest consumer of dairy in the world. India also has one of the highest ratings of heart disease in the world. And if we put these two very common things together, it's a very clear picture of what's going on.
Yeah. I genuinely believe that the best way to promote plant-based foods is not promoting plant-based foods. Is the best way to promote plant-based foods. And that's what we're not doing very well.
So if you had $10 million right now, where would you put that money towards? Hey guys, welcome to Kindness with Amy. Today I'm joined by the awe-inspiring Matthew Glover, who is the co-founder of Veganuary, founder of Generation Vegan, founder of Veg Capital, amongst many things. Welcome, Matthew.
Oh, it's really a pleasure to be here, Amy. So I'm looking forward to the chat.
Thank you. It's so exciting, the work that you do and the impact that you've had in the animal advocacy space is incredible. I was hoping that you can share with me your transition to becoming a vegan, and more so than just becoming a vegan, why you became so passionate about being so involved in the animal advocacy space.
Sure. I mean, it took me 38 years to go vegan. I was minding my own business and stumbled across some scenes of cruelty on the internet that just hit me. And I decided to change my life very quickly after that. I went immediately vegan, and actually I decided that this was an opportunity for me to change who I am and to focus on doing something good with my life. So I decided that to dedicate my life to the animals, and that's what I've been doing for the last 14 or 15 years. So I'm like a mix of business and activism, and I'm like this. I'm like activist one day, I'm business person, and I'm just like doing that all the time with my life, which is quite confusing at times.
So what videos did you see that sparked you into the...
Yeah, no, it was a clickbait advert, and it said the meat industry doesn't want you to see.
Oh no.
And I was vegetarian at the time, and I thought, oh, well, look, this is, I'm vegetarian anyway, so let's see what it is. And there was scenes of cruelty in the egg and the dairy industry that I'd never even thought about. I just thought cows lovingly gave us their extra milk, and never really thought about like the male chicks in the egg industry. So, when I found that out, I was like, I can't eat it anymore. I need to boycott these industries. And I didn't know what a vegan was. I don't remember ever meeting vegans, in Wakefield in West Yorkshire, and I was in the construction sector.
Wow.
To me, it just was obvious, like I couldn't do this anymore. So that was it. My family were from a family of butchers. So my granddad, my uncle, and even my mother worked in the meat industry. And I spent time visiting slaughterhouses and butcher shops when I was a child, sort of at primary school age. And so I always understood that the meat was from animals, which I think a lot of children don't. But nevertheless, it was the family business. And it was like I had to, my parents made me eat meat, even though I didn't necessarily want to. That was roughly it. But, I understand what it's like to not be vegan, like 38 years of my life, most of my life, I haven't been. I've eaten meat, as most of us have, before making that transition. So I don't forget what it's like for the 99% of the population that haven't got there yet.
I was reading online that more people than ever in the world are consuming meat, and it's just on the rise every single day.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, most of the rise is happening in developing countries. It's in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America. So as people get wealthier, they aspire to eat like Western people. And so these industries are developing.
And die like Western people.
Sorry?
Die like Western people.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly,
yeah.
If you want to keep eating so much saturated fat, you are going to be dying from cancer and heart disease by the time you hit 70, 80.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
for sure. And, we're in India now filming this, and you can see the effects of it. So, yeah, this is why. I mean, in some Western countries, it's plateaued, or there's even, like in Germany, there's been a slight decline over the last few years in meat consumption. In others, you're finding that people are eating less red meat, pork and beef, and then they're eating more chicken and fish. So it's a complex, nuanced picture depending on the country. But on the whole, meat consumption is rising, and it's a problem. We are not winning at the moment in terms of advocacy.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll share with you an observation that I had the other day. So I went to the movies in India, and I'm sure you've seen this in the UK as well. So in the cinema, before they show the movie, they have these ads that are anti-smoking ads, and they show like someone with a terrible disease and the wife crying and basically saying that by smoking, you're enhancing your chances of getting cancers and all this sort of stuff. And I find it interesting, this public sentiment around smoking equals bad. Everyone knows smoking is bad and it equals cancer. Yet when it comes to meat, that public sentiment is not there around an understanding that meat and dairy with saturated fat leads to heart-related problems, and that is the #1 killer in India.
Yeah.
So when we really break it down, India is the highest consumer of dairy in the world. India also has one of the highest ratings of heart disease in the world.
Yeah.
And if we put these two very common things together, it's a very clear picture of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yet we're so focused on smoking. And I find that so interesting. Why do you think that's the case? Because I was talking about this with a friend of mine, and he was like, why does no one, he genuinely was asking me, why does no one talk about this then, that meat and dairy is not good for you?
So the tobacco industry many years ago had a playbook which was really trying to, it became very clear that the science was suggesting that smoking is really bad for you for so many reasons. And they, employed scientists and PR firms to try and create doubt around that. And, they had success for a period of time. And then the fossil fuel industry adopted that same playbook. And a lot of the same people that were working for the PR side of tobacco moved across to fossil fuels. And now the meat industry and the dairy industry and the egg industry are adopting the same playbook, really. So these are huge industries. The advocacy movement for plant-based and for veganism is about $120 million a year. The meat animal-based industries are 1.6 trillion.
Oh my God.
I mean, you're talking about it's not just a David and Goliath struggle. It's like David against an army of Goliaths in terms of our ability to influence society compared to their ability to influence society. So the meat, the dairy, the egg industries, they're employing PR firms, they're doing a lot of advertising, they're funding science, they're lobbying, and we just can't compete at the moment. We need to outthink them. We need a slingshot style of strategy like David had. But at the moment, we're not quite there yet. But I'm still hopeful for the future that we can start to tip the balance in our favour.
Absolutely. I still feel, and we were talking about this before, that, whilst we also may feel pessimistic at times, I still feel there is hope for the world and to at least influence some change as much as we can.
I believe in humanity. I believe that most people are good. But, like I was in my first 38 years, I was focused on, for me, running a business, providing for my family. And you've got so many other trivial things going on in your life that occupy your mind. You're not thinking about farmed animals on a day-to-day basis. But somebody reached me. It was this particular advert, the video the meat industry doesn't want you to see. Paul McCartney spoke to me on this video, and it hit me. We just need to reach people like that. How I was touched, I believe that we can touch a lot more people, because I do think inherently people are good.
I think so too. And I think most people in their hearts are good people. Even when they eat meat, they eat dairy, they may not realize that the food that they're consuming is a part of a chain of unnecessary suffering, because they will be people that will have dogs, that will have cats, and extend that same love to other animals, but they don't have that connection, or that realization, I guess, that they don't need this stuff, number one, and number two, the magnitude of suffering that they're supporting by being a part of this industry.
Yeah. My friend Tobias Leenart once said that everyone eats meat because everyone eats meat. And it's like,
wow.
And that's a really powerful message, and that really explains so much, because we're just, and I was the same, you don't question it when everybody around you is doing the same thing. Exactly. Why would you question it?
Exactly.
But there's been so many times in history where society's been wrong about things. If you go back to the slave trade like 300 years ago, if you would have surveyed people in the UK, do you agree with slavery, and do you buy products from the slave trade? 95% of the population would have said, yeah, of course, it's natural, it's normal, it's like, this is the way it is, and everybody else was partaking in it. But obviously we look back at that now, and that was wrong. Yeah. And we're in the same situation here. For a lot of people, it's totally, they see meat as natural, as necessary, it tastes nice, it's normal. Is it the four N's they talk about? So yeah, it's, and it's very, very clear that people have been eating meat for we can't deny that. But just because people have been doing something in a certain way for a very long time doesn't mean it's
absolutely
it's the right way for us to continue going forward.
It's like with so many things, Matthew, humans have been raping for a long time. That doesn't mean that we go around doing it, right? Yeah, exactly. So, I feel very, very strongly on that point, that, as you said, regarding slavery, we honestly believed that was normal and right for a very long time. Yeah. And I think that humans are creatures of learned behavior, and whatever behaviors we see around us, that's what we believe is normal. Yeah. And it's kind of like when we see, when someone like me might see dogs being killed in China. When I was a non-vegan, I would be like, oh my God, that's so wrong. But then for them, that's so normal, right? Because that's their culture, that's their everyday. So I think as humans, we need to look at the things we do from a very non-biased moral baseline. That's what the baseline has to be, non-biased and non-culturally influenced, because then someone can argue that this is okay for me, because morals are subjective. Yeah. And the moment you make them subjective, anyone can justify anything. Yeah. And that's where I think it's problematic. Mm-hmm. So if you had $10 million right now, where would you put that money towards?
Not a beach house in the Bahamas, that type of thing.
No. Well, you can.
Yeah.
You can.
I mean, it's a good question. I think I'd have to look. This is a boring answer, but I would probably need to budget, and I need to look at the effectiveness of different strategies. The work that I'm starting to work on a new project, and we're probably going to go digital/AI first, because we think that is the best way to reach the biggest audience. Yeah. But you need a tactical arsenal of multiple different activations. So, if you were to weight it, I would probably put a significant portion into digital and AI strategies. But I would also be looking at PR. I would be looking at how do we engage with journalists and editors to start getting the news out a little bit more. I'd be super focused. I wouldn't be trying to convince everybody in the world. At the same time, I'd be looking at areas that have got, the potential, the greatest potential, where there's the most persuadable people there. And also where they're the most persuadable and where there's the chance of ripple effects from that. So I'd be looking at tipping point strategy for that. Trying to build the right team around me, the smartest people. We do have some smart people here. We could do with more. I'd rather be thinking about 100 million or 1 billion to play with, to be honest, Amy, than 10 million. Because again, 10 million, if you look at that in comparison to the size of the opposition, it's nothing.
Yeah. Well, the numbers you shared.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. It is nothing.
What is McDonald's marketing budget? It's probably,
oh my God, just
in one country, it'd be more than 10 million.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you feel about, so I see a lot of vegan influencers or vegan activists online, and we see in the news vegan activists who are throwing blood on people and screaming at people in supermarkets and saying they're wrong for eating meat and guilting people, basically. Now, I personally feel that this form of advocacy, I don't feel it's effective, because I think if you're telling someone that they're wrong for beliefs that they feel are right, I think you're pushing them away further. And I've had a lot of vegans argue with me on this, that you're wrong for thinking that, but I honestly don't feel it's effective. I think just from a psychological perspective, when you make someone feel positive about something and inspired about something, I think then they're more likely to want to change on their own accord, rather than someone yelling at them that they're wrong. So how do you feel about that? About that approach that activists take? Do you think it's effective, or have you had any experience with it?
So I think that approach works for some people. I think some people need to hear that ethical, persuasive argument to cut through to them. But I guess the counterfactual here is that so many others are turned off by it at the same time. So
that's the thing.
So, and not every strategy. So what we need to do is think about what is the strategy that is going to appeal to the biggest, widest possible population, because we are so underfunded, we are so outmaneuvered and outgunned. So I've been promoting veganism now for 14 years with Veganuary, with Gen V, and I've been thinking we just need to do vegan education, vegan outreach more effectively. That's the simple thing.
Yeah.
But more recently, I've started to question that even that's not right. Within society, it's very clear, and particularly over the last few years, vegans we have a very bad image in society.
People hate vegans.
Yeah. It's. I once gave a talk to a crowd of non-vegans, and just to try and warm the audience up. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think I did see a survey that suggested that, in terms of popularity, terrorists are like lowest, vegans are just slightly above, and traffic wardens and tax collectors score higher than vegans. And all we do is eat more fruit and veg than everybody else.
Oh my God, people prefer traffic wardens to a vegan?
And tax collectors.
And tax collectors?
Yeah.
And we're basically like terrorists?
The point is that we're not very popular in society. Yeah. So whatever we've been doing has been like rubbing people up the wrong way. So we can't ignore that. We need to look at that and think, oh, well, okay, is the strategies that we've been using working? And clearly not. Just these public opinion polls are showing that, and you just see it online everywhere. We're not very popular. So how do we fix this? Well, nearly everybody in the Western world disagrees with factory farming.
Yes.
And nearly all meat, dairy and eggs comes from factory farming. So if we were just to pivot our strategy towards a real focus on factory farming, we start getting allies, we start getting people on our side. And what about we deliver that information with no call to action? What about we deliver that information, make people feel uncomfortable about what they're eating, make it clear to them that they can't shop their way out of it very easily because at least 90% of meat, dairy and eggs comes from factory farming, and this is what it looks like. So that then there's like a real dilemma in people's minds. And we leave it with them and we let them come to their own conclusions a little bit more. And what about we ask people to share this and get angry and think about it and talk to their friends about it, and it to become an issue in society? The focus is on factory farming. It's not anti-meat, it's anti-factory farming messaging. I just wonder whether we'll create more vegans that way.
That's a very interesting point, because do you think that if you start getting people aware about factory farming, all right, and they see the suffering of factory farming, and obviously everyone will resonate with it, everyone will hate it. I'm very curious if that will plant the seed, just like Inception, if that will plant the seed for more people to be like, oh, I don't even want to eat meat then. Do you know what I mean? And then that starts that ripple effect internally of being more open to that information, independently people doing more research, independently people being more open-minded. Because before that, people were not even aware or thought about it. Now you've opened a spectrum where people are even thinking about it because you've opened that door through factory farming. So I think that's a very, very interesting approach, because people won't feel attacked. That's the key thing. You're starting them off without feeling attacked.
They feel like we have an agenda. You know, it's like we deliver information X, Y, Z, and here's what we want you to do. And that hasn't been working at scale. I mean, we've had some success, but it's the last few years, it's been very clear that we're not winning. So, but the research suggests that if you explain, there's some research in the US looking at concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs. It's not a term that's widely known, but a factory farm is a CAFO. When a CAFO is explained to people how overcrowded they are, how filthy they are, how squalid the conditions are, how meat from these type of facilities is unclean, it's unnatural, it's unsafe, people really start to think about it. But then you've got this problem of like, it's interesting in the US because 99% of meat, dairy and eggs comes from factory farming. If you say to people, and do you know that 99% comes from these type of places, they hold their hands up to people and say, well, there's nothing I can do about it anymore. If you tell them that it's 90%, that creates a conflict in their mind where they're thinking, well, how do I, as an individual, avoid it? So there's a psychological element there. But my intuition is that the better strategy for the movement is to effectively get across that 90% plus is coming from factory farms, certainly in the West. In India, I think we do need different framing and different narratives. But in the West, this is what we need to get across to people, and that we just need to encourage them to learn more, to think about it, to get angry, and for this to become a political issue. And I think, you know, great if people want to make differences, and I think they will naturally start making personal lifestyle decisions based on that. But it's really about making this a politically hot topic. If you were to survey people in the UK or the US ahead of an election, a general election, say, what are the issues that you really care about? It's going to be immigration, economy, healthcare, you know, maybe climate change and stuff. But factory farming, if you had to give people 30 issues, factory farming is going to be 30th on that list, or 29th maybe. If we effectively get across that factory farming is prevalent, nearly everything that is for sale in supermarkets, in restaurants, in fast food outlets is coming from factory farming, and this is what it looks like, I'd like to think that over time we can get this to be a hot topic. It's one of the top 10 issues that people are voting on. And I think that's how we start really making change.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good way to look at it, and a really realistic strategy to take, because obviously whatever's been happening up until now, it's not working. And something majorly has to shift.
Yeah.
Majorly has to shift. Why do you think so many people think that being vegan is unhealthy and extreme?
Well, look, we live in a society where it's, everybody's eating meat. Everyone's eating, even healthcare providers, they're meat eaters themselves. We have these very powerful industries. Everywhere you look, there's advertising that's reinforcing this belief in society that, we need meat, dairy, eggs, fish to be healthy. It's natural, it's normal, tastes nice. So, it's everywhere. And to shift people is going to take time. This is a project it's going to take a long time. I've said it before. It's not like us as activists. This isn't a 100-meter sprint, and we're probably not going to see the world that we want. We're not going to see the finish line ourselves.
Yeah.
The better way for us to think of it, myself and you, Amy, is to think we're in the second leg of a relay race.
Yeah.
Somebody's handed the baton to us.
Yeah.
We need to run as fast as we possibly can and hand that baton to somebody else. And they're going to run their leg of the journey. And then somebody is going to reach the finish line.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to do it without the work that we do. But I'm afraid that in our lifetimes, we might not see the type of world that we want.
Yeah, because there's a very strong narrative that I've seen erupt over the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years, especially around how plant-based foods, protein, plant-based meat, whatever, plant-based foods have so many ingredients and are very unhealthy, and meat has one ingredient. And there's this very strong campaign around this that we see across the board with like doctors, nutritionists, with influencers who are driving this idea that vegan equals unnatural supplements, processed stuff, and eating meat is normal and healthy and natural, and it's what our ancestors did. And this is a very strong narrative that is just there, and it's so incorrect, and it's very frustrating. So how do we, firstly, where is this narrative being driven from?
Yeah, this is the tobacco playbook. There's it's seeded from certain companies and agencies in the United States. There's a guy called Richard Berman. He has a company called Berman & Co. He used to work for the tobacco industry, and then he worked for the fossil fuel industry. And they have a website called the Center for Consumer Freedom. Okay. And they're continuously pumping out this sort of information. You've got scientists that are funded by the livestock industries, the meat industries, that are also sort of on the payroll, pushing out these sort of messages. Wow. You've then got the right-wing media that, trying to paint this as a woke subject, that vegan is woke. And this is very, very unhelpful. One of the things that we need to do is we need to get across that this isn't a liberal, progressive issue. This is something that applies to all of us. We all get unhealthy if we're eating this stuff. Animals suffer whether you're a conservative or a liberal. And I think one of the challenges that we have is that a lot of our messaging does come across as being very progressive and liberal and woke.
Yeah.
But it's not that people that are conservative care less about animals or care less about their families. They just need the information presenting them in a different way. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
We're looking at this. There's people. There's a guy that I met from the Wilberforce Institute, and they're looking at how do you frame this issue to conservative audiences. And we might not talk so much about rebellion and disruption and all that type of stuff. What we might talk about is food safety, food security, how these big corporations are polluting your local environment. So, we don't talk about climate change with these people because, again, they switch off. This is a left-wing propaganda thing. So, and we're not doing that particularly well at the moment, but I think we can do. I'd love to see the Daily Mail or the Daily Telegraph get behind this issue and get this to be a subject that society as a whole starts saying, this is outrageous. You know, the people who care so much about potholes suddenly get so upset about factory farms in their locality that are polluting rivers, you know, so.
But I think you're right that it's just about, it's kind of like when you're marketing a product, you don't just have one strategy for everyone. You tailor a strategy to your different demographics.
Yeah.
And vegans and whatever advocacy we have needs to become smarter, consolidate all the 100 different things that are happening, and pool the funds in a certain way that we have complete strategy over what's going on. Because I personally feel when I'm an outsider looking at all these different things that are happening, everything is just all over the place. How amazing would it be if we had a consolidated strategy where we have a long-term plan in place that for the next 30 years, this is what's happening. Because consumer shifts in thoughts take time. They take a period of time. We're not going to shift ideas overnight. So this is a long-term thing that we need to think about. And as you said, different approach for a conservative right-wing Jan family, different approach for someone who is, completely left who lives in, Bandra. Different approaches for different people, but I think that's the only way forward. How do you feel about, so we were talking before about investment in the plant-based space, and you were saying that you don't feel particularly optimistic in investing in alternative proteins and necessarily vegan brands when there's a lack of consumer understanding and awareness and demand for the same. How do you feel about the industry at large? And if someone is starting a vegan business or wanting to start an alternative protein business or alternative dairy business, should they just not do it?
What I would say is I'm looking at the numbers in the US, in the UK, in parts of Europe, and the categories have been trending downwards now for 3, 4, 5 years. And it's not bottoming out at the moment. There was a lot of money came into this space 3 or 4 years ago, when prior to that, the categories were growing, but it plateaued about 2020 and it's been going downwards. So most of the companies that raise money will disappear. It's a fact. A lot of them already have done. There's going to be opportunities in terms of consolidation, and we're seeing that at play, and I've been involved in some of that process. In the US, the UK particularly, the retailers are reducing shelf space. So not only have you got companies competing for the same space, they're competing for less space. A lot of the chain restaurants, if you look at most of the chain restaurants in the UK at what their menus looked like 3 years ago and look at what they look like now, there's less plant-based options on the menu now.
Are you for real?
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. It's it's gone backwards.
Wow.
So to go back to your question, would you start an alternative protein company? Look, it's going to be very, very tough. I mean, you're going to have thick skin. You're going to have to have a product that is genuinely, significantly better than what is out there. And even if it is significantly better than what is out there, how are you going to get it to the price to be able to compete?
That's the problem.
Yeah, because people are buying on price, and then you've got all of this negative PR. So my view at the moment, I said at the beginning that I flip between business and activism, and I'm like this all of the time. I feel that I'm going to be more effective working on social change, on diet change, on culture change than I am trying to create the next best vegan burger or vegan sausage, because if the market's not there for it, it's a struggle.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And, I feel that vegan brands or new vegan brands coming onto the market maybe need to consider their strategy around their positioning, because if they do want to, let's say, alternative protein in India, I don't think it's wise to bring one into the market at all unless you position it as soy chop or something that Indians already consume. Because if you position it as veg chicken or something, there will be pushback in India because people are vegetarian in India for religious reasons, which means since birth they've not even had meat. So you don't have the vegetarian market to begin with. It's different for vegetarians, say, in the US, who have probably gone vegetarian in their lifetime, eaten meat before, so they have an appetite for a veg chicken. In India, that's not the case. So that's why so many of these protein brands shut down. So I feel it's just how they position themselves. Like, you know, let's say if it's like a vegan butter or something, I would say try and, yes, get your pricing as competitive as possible, but position it as a cholesterol-free, heart-healthy butter, because most Indians are battling with diabetes and health issues and wanting sugar-free and whatever. So make it more about that and don't even mention the vegan thing. And I think that they will be better placed in the market if they angle it from more of a health perspective to get the mainstream audience, because you're not going to appeal to the vegetarians or the vegans in India.
Yeah, certainly in the US and the UK, the term vegan obviously can be problematic, but also the term plant-based is increasingly like frowned upon. There's efforts to reposition products as plant-rich or plant proteins, which I think they're real positive moves in the right direction. That being said, hear me out here. I genuinely believe that the best way to promote plant-based foods is not promoting plant-based foods. It's going after big meat. Going after big meat is the best way to promote plant-based foods. And that's what we're not doing very well. We need people to feel disgusted and angry about where meat, dairy and eggs is coming from. And we're just not cutting through. And if we do that, it's like me. Like when I suddenly became disgusted, I suddenly started eating hummus and falafel and like vegetarian curries,
Happened organically on your
own. Just because, I just made that switch, and that's, it wasn't the falafel and the hummus board that was promoting to me. It was just like I needed to switch away from doing what I was doing.
This is a really good point, because even in my case, when I was 16, I watched a PETA video and then I watched Earthlings and Immediate. And I just naturally stopped and didn't want to eat those things anymore that supported that. So I think for most people, I agree with you. It's just, but it happened on my own accord. It wasn't that someone told me or forced me. It just was one of those videos that came up for me, like how it came up for you. Yeah. And then that led you to
Mine was a PETA video as well.
Was it? Look, these good old PETA videos, they're investigation videos. They're so gruesome and they just turn you off. It's like, oh my God, but they work so well. And so people just need to stumble across them, and they can't be put across as like a vegan one, as you're saying. If it's a factory farming one, that's fantastic, because you're not going to feel challenged, to see it. So very interesting.
I think, I'm still playing around with the strategy that we're going to be focusing on going forward. But in my mind, a typical video should be something like this. Hey, did you know that XYZ happens in factory farms or in the dairy industry or whatever? Then you show them XYZ, but briefly, not like too hard hitting, because there's a challenge if you go too graphic, people just switch off. So you just need to introduce it. And then you need to just make it very simple. This is effed up. This is really messed up, isn't it? It's not an ethical message you're saying. It's just this is messed up. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then I think the next level is, and did you know that at least 90% of XYZ is coming from factory farms? So that then creates that sort of dilemma in people's minds. And then I think you need to sell some sort of positivity, and this is really tapping into social change theory. You need to then say, and did you know that increasing amounts of people are boycotting factory farming?
Yeah.
Did you know that increasing numbers of people feel uncomfortable about this? Did you know that society is moving in this direction and we need to do that as a whole, and we're better than this? And then there's some sort of call to action at the end. And that call to action is not necessarily go vegan, or, it's learn more, share this, get angry, sign the petition, mobilize in your locality against factory farms. I think that's the way for us to win. I'm not saying it's exactly that format, but it's something like that.
But I like the idea of it ending on some positive thing, because I was reading online in regards to psychological behavior change that we are 70% more likely to shift our behavior when we feel positive about something.
Yeah.
So if you've created this trajectory of being outraged, and then it's like, oh, what do I do? And then it's like, oh, this is what others are doing.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to loop things around to make sense. So I think that makes a lot of sense to do it that way. And I even thought you could have, and I know that PETA do this and Animal Equality do this as well, where they have these VR headsets. And I was like, how cool would it be if like every city, everywhere, and you could trial it in like one city and you have all these headsets everywhere. And it's like, and it's coming from a place of curiosity, not from a place of like, you know, anything full on. And it's just saying something like experience being a cow in a factory farm. So everyone would be curious to try it out.
Yeah.
And just obviously then they go on that trajectory of being disgusted. And then, as you said, on that track. So
can I go back to your question about the 10 million?
Yeah.
Because I've rethought it.
I'm changing it to $1 billion.
No, I actually can do it with
You're
10
happy
million.
with 10 million? Okay.
For 1 year, yeah?
Okay.
What I would do with 10 million is I would put it all into one city and I would do a pilot scheme on one city.
What a good idea.
Yeah, I'd put it into London.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm mentioning this is that I did pitch this strategy to funders recently. Because if you look at tipping point theory, there's a great book, Damon Centola. Everybody watching this.
Tipping point theory.
No, it's called Change,
Oh,
How to Make Big Things Happen.
Okay.
Damon Centola. I highly recommend you read that book, Amy, because it had a profound effect on me. For change to happen, people need to see reinforcement from their surroundings many times. So imagine an individual, Priya. She lives in Mumbai. She's, nice person. She cares about the environment. She cares about her family. She works in marketing, whatever. She's going to work in the morning. She's got a podcast in a headset. And, in that podcast, there's some sort of message, an advert that comes up about the dairy industry, and how cruel it is. And then she gets to work, and in the fridge, somebody's switched out the cow's milk for oat milk. And then she's out with her friends at lunchtime, and one of her friends has recently decided to adopt a plant-based diet. So they've ordered the plant-based option. And then, she goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Hey, Priya, just nothing to worry about at this point in time, but have you noticed that, we've noticed that your cholesterol's slightly tracking up. So, maybe try and adopt more of a plant-based diet and, cut out dairy." And then, at home, she's speaking to her niece on the phone or on WhatsApp, and her niece says, hey, Auntie Priya, these people came into school today and they told us about ahimsa and how we should be compassionate to animals, and we shouldn't be cruel to farmed animals either. They've now changed the food at my school. The point is that things need to happen from multiple different touch points. Now, if we've got minimal resources and we're a small group, there's maybe 5,000 activists in the whole world. For us to turn the whole world vegan is so difficult. We're not going to touch the sides. We're diluted too much. And we're never going to know whether our activism using various different theories of change is ever going to work. So what I would do is, going back to it, I would put effort into one city and I would think about institutional change.
Right.
So engaging with universities and schools and hospitals to, work on default veg or meat-free Mondays. I would be funding strategic litigation to go after big meat. I would be doing lobbying. I would be doing policy work in London. I would have We the Free and Anonymous for the Voiceless on the streets every weekend, and I would be drawing in people from the rest of the UK to come and hit the streets of London on a regular basis. I would be doing digital advertising. I'd be targeting people with different messages, one's for conservatives, one's for liberals, one's for young people, one's for old people, different faith communities, different messages. I'd be running ads on the London Underground because everybody gets on the London Underground. Do you see my point? If that way,
it's like multi-pronged approach in a consolidated area.
Throw the kitchen sink at London.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody watching that's got 10 million, let's chat and we'll do this in London.
Guys, please email amy@genv.org so we can then divert the funds to Matthew Glover and London.
But then we can show that our activism does work.
Yeah.
And it's just resources that we need and clever strategy.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to put talent density in as well, like encourage the movement leaders to come and work on one project, let's make significant change in one place, learn from that, and then we bring it to Mumbai and to Barcelona and to Washington, DC.
Absolutely. And I think that's a fantastic way to look at things. And I really hope that that is something that can actually be executed. And, you know, something you said about the change being influenced by different areas.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I have an in-person case study right now. So I started dating this person, okay, non-vegan, which is shocking, okay. and he was a big meat eater when we started dating. And so I said to him, look, I'm okay if you eat meat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not okay. I will judge you. But I'm not going to force you to change, and I don't want someone to change for me.
Yeah.
Just don't do it around me and all that kind of stuff. All right. This reverse psychology resulted in him being like, I'm going completely vegetarian. I'm not touching meat. Okay. And I was like, oh, please, for 5 minutes. It's now been 2 months and he's not had any meat. But what's been interesting is so his best friend is also trying to go vegan, and because of my liaison with his friend is now trying to be vegan even more.
Yeah.
Now, this friend has influenced him even more because of this conversation that's now become more prominent. Then what's happened is his family have gotten exposure to me.
Yeah.
And as such, his family has gotten exposure to my podcast. Yeah. And I was speaking to his dad yesterday, who was also a meat eater. And he's like, yes, I've decided to become a vegetarian because I watched your podcast with Dr. Faraz Hassini.
Oh, yeah.
And so he rated chicken as 2 out of 10 and he gave his reasons why. And I think it's very compelling. So I think I'd like to go vegetarian now. And so what's happening is, without me really doing anything, these small little networks are increasing beyond one zone. More and more people are being impacted by it. So it's so interesting how that works.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to try.
Yeah, but imagine also if there was outside influences like billboards that he was driving past, and the TV was also talking about it, and the local media were talking about it. It'd be vegan already.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's something that I was talking to some philanthropists and funders about, that. And how I was saying to you before that I've been thinking about long-term strategies, and I like live and breathe consumer behavior and marketing. And I just see the so much, not mess, but just so many different things that are happening in little silos here in India specifically. And so I was very interested in exploring a campaign in India where it's something that's happening over the next year, in multiple different fronts, on billboards, during IPL, on TV, on digital, and it's one series of ads with one very clear call to action. It's not preachy, it's not full on, it's just planting an idea of the moral inconsistency that we all have. And it was inspired by this ad that I saw. I think Viva Charity did it, or Animals Australia. It was Animals Australia who did this ad. I don't know if you've seen it, where this guy found this pig, and the pig ended up like kind of just being with him, and he had to return the pig to the owner. And then when he found out the owner is a slaughterhouse, he decided to keep the pig. And that this is like a typical Aussie guy, okay? And then he's like taking the pig everywhere. The pig becomes like a dog, okay? And then he goes to get a sandwich at lunch the next day, and he's got the pig with him. And the guy's like, do you want the usual, mate? And he's like, looks at the pig and he's like, nah, today I'll have a veggie burger. And that was the end of the thing. It's creating that, just that little connect. So I had thought about doing very similar videos in an Indian context, just planting that seed. You know, when we ran the numbers of what that conversion rate can look like in a place like India, it was very, very interesting. So I kind of have a very similar thought process to you, that I'm like, just with some more resources, with a couple of $1 million, if you can test something in one place, it's so interesting to see what you can do. Because if you track and you monitor that, and it's successful, and you can put all that data together, you can pick that up and take that somewhere else. Because people are the same. It's just differences in variances in values and demographics, but essentially we're all the same.
That suggestion of me throwing 10 million at London, I would love to think about doing the same in Mumbai.
Yeah.
And just test the theory out in one place, because running 2 million ad, and you mentioned the IPL, and if that was like disseminated throughout the whole of India, I don't think it'd touch the sides. It would just get too diluted, and it'd be very difficult to track what's going on. But to run, say, $1 million or $2 million worth of advertising in just Mumbai, while at the same time doing institutional work and legal work and engaging with, I don't know what the newspaper is here, but the Mumbai Herald or whatever it's called. And there's We the Free on the streets. Do you know what I mean? Like a whole range of stuff all happening together.
Exactly.
And then, in India, everybody learns from the Mumbai model, and then they take it to Delhi and to Bangalore and to Hyderabad. Absolutely. That's how I would be thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
It's just getting the right people together with the right intentions and the right resources. And I think that's the little challenge.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just like it's very clear to me that India, with ahimsa as this guiding non-violent theory within society, obviously not necessarily acting on it, but and the vegetarianism that is still quite strong here, and the fact that there is so many wealthy individuals here, and that giving back, particularly like amongst the Jain community, is in theory part of how they live their lives, and the fact that we need significant funding to be able to scale things up. We know what to do, we just don't necessarily have the resources. My point is, could India fuel the movement, or at least fuel just in India the movement, but maybe like fuel the movement internationally? That would be such an amazing thing to happen. But we need to be thinking about meta fundraising. We need to be thinking like, how do we sell this movement as a whole, the importance of it, how it's neglected, how it's so important in terms of public health, in terms of climate change and deforestation and obviously suffering, which me and you obviously care so much about. Is that a viable thing for me to be thinking, that India could lead the way financially and morally in that regard?
Absolutely, because when we think of funding for animal advocacy, we think of philanthropists who have very deep pockets, right? But what about the HNIs, or the even not so much the HNIs, who are very passionate about vegetarianism already? They're already there, right? And we know that there's millions of them in India.
Yeah.
And even if they gave a smaller amount of money, and then we multiply that, right? And we have this pool of funds. So it's basically a program that's put together by the people, because it's people taking a stand that we need to do something more, right? So I think it's how you package it. Like if you had a very clear thing that this is what we're doing, this is how much money we think we need, and you can give us, it's kind of like a Kickstarter for animal advocacy, basically. And I really feel that people in India, especially communities like Jains, even Hindus, so many people would get behind it who really care about it.
And I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but can I ask you another question?
Yeah, please.
Just in regards to, I talked about in the West how we're thinking about pivoting towards more of a focus on factory farming in terms of our advocacy. How do you think that needs adapting to the Indian narrative?
That's a really good question, because I don't feel that people in India know what factory farming is at all.
That's what I'm hearing.
At all. So I think the framing has to be around the use of animals. And I think we just need to be just change the language. And I don't know exactly what that would be. I think we'd have to do a bit more research and maybe some deeper insights into public perceptions around animals. But certainly there is a very strong belief that in India we are very nice with the way we kill animals, and especially when it comes to dairy, there's a strong belief that we treat animals really well in the dairy industry. So
would you focus on dairy then?
I would focus on dairy, and I would focus on one thing, which is that when you drink milk, what's happening is millions of cows and buffaloes, and I would not just say cows because it's mainly buffaloes, millions of cows and buffaloes are ending up being sent to slaughter, which is making India the second largest exporter of beef and leather. Just that one point.
So milk equals meat.
That's it.
Milk equals beef.
Just that one point, because that is enough to stop people consuming that. Oh, fuck, I need to say, they've already sued me once. I can't say that again. Shit.
Can I say it?
No. Because my guest Mehnka Gandhi said it in my podcast, and that's why I got sued.
I met her last night. Actually, she's amazing.
She just says anything, and she's just incredible. So, I think that dairy would be the focus in India. And once you've
but 70% of the population also eats meat. So you think it's a stage process, like get the vegetarians to really think about the milk,
because the vegetarians are your low-hanging fruit. They're already kind of there. So I would say focus on the vegetarians first. Even though we have that number of 70%, it's not really 70%, because it's like a vegetarian, for example, a Hindu might only eat meat on Tuesdays or whatever, because they have some belief that, so they're not big meat eaters to begin with. They're pretty empathetic. So I would say vegetarians focus on, and then when you're focusing on the non-vegetarians, it would have to be a very different strategy.
I had a few ideas that I put forward in my talk at Vegan India conference. One was because my girlfriend's Hindu, and she said she's had this idea of chai challenge, which is like give people like 2 types of chai and say try and decide which one's plant-based and which one's dairy.
Interesting.
The trick is they're both going to be plant-based. So she was chai challenge, and I like joining words together. So I said, what about challenge as a name? And so she's thinking about doing that, and then she was like, but ghee the real problem. So we went back to the drawing board and thought, what could we call like something around ghee? So we thought ghee-tox. What a great name that is.
Ghee-tox, that's awesome.
So that needs developing over here.
I mean, I learned a fact that, and I really feel there is a strong campaign here so separately when we're talking about the dairy equals meat one, separately is this health one, because 1 tablespoon of ghee is 60% of your daily saturated fat. That is an insane fact, because most people in India, as you know, have heart problems and this and that, diabetes, whatever. It's all coming from dairy. There is a very strong campaign here to really show, so with like prominent doctors or something, really showing that dairy equals heart disease. Just drilling that into people's heads so they lose that thought that dairy is good, ghee is good. Because the moment you start commenting on dairy, they're like, oh, it's our Ayurvedic, you're being anti-India and blah, blah, blah. This is what we've had for thousands of years. But contextually in Ayurveda, ghee's been used sparingly just for little things here and there. It's not meant to be consumed how it is today. Same with dairy and everything. So I think there's a strong argument for a health-based campaign and then an ethical-based campaign. And I think both would be very interesting in India. I like chai challenge. Challenge.
I think ghee-tox is a more fun one, and it could be applied to all dairy as a name. So, But I did mention it in my talk yesterday, so somebody's probably already bought the domain name.
Oh, it's probably gone. Yeah, you have to buy it for $10 million. That's where your money will go now.
Yeah.
So I saw this billboard in India recently where it was a PETA billboard where there was a woman drinking milk from a dog's teat. Okay. And it said something like, if you wouldn't drink milk from a dog, why do you drink milk from a cow? And I ended up seeing this ad in all of these newspapers. People were outraged that how can anyone make this comparison? And I found it really interesting because why would people be outraged by this? It's a very logical question, you know? And I find that people don't often talk about dairy because they don't think of dairy as being destructive or problematic. But we always associate meat with, like, we know that meat is bad, meat is destructive, all of this kind of stuff. But we don't see much talk, especially in India, around dairy. And I found it interesting that people were so outraged by this. Why would anyone be outraged by that comparison?
Well, you said it was logical, to make the comparison between dog dairy and cow dairy, but I don't think people are necessarily logical around this subject. This has been, people have been brainwashed almost over centuries that, milk comes from cows and that's natural and normal and necessary and nice. So to make that connection with breastfeeding puppies and dogs and what have you, it just blows people's minds, doesn't it? So I'd love to know whether that's effective or not. I'm not sure. I'd love to interview people, or I don't know if there's been any studies as to whether that's working or not. I'm not sure that's the best strategy, personally. What do you think? I
don't know. I think I would need more data on it. I would, if I was doing that ad. So firstly, I really question PETA's advertising, okay, most of the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, PETA. But
we were both converted by PETA as well.
That's true.
So it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. This is the crazy thing. But I would have, if I was doing that ad in that way, I would have had some kind of QR code on there as a call to action, because the problem is when you've got billboards all over India saying something, we need to know from the 10 million people that have seen it, let's say 50,000 might scan that QR code, and then from that 50,000 scan, you might have a 1% conversion rate that do X, Y, Z. I would want to know what's that number, because that's how I can track the success of this campaign.
Yeah.
So, not having a call to action is problematic on something like that, because what is it? It got a lot of press. People are so upset about it, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But then what's the lead on from that? That's what's lacking.
I'll tell you one thing that I do know. I watched Maa Ka Doodh before I came to India.
Yeah, oh, you did?
Yeah, because I really wanted to understand the dairy issue and all of the tradition and culture. I recommend you watch it. It's long. It's about 2 hours long. But anyway, I watched it, and then I was very curious as to whether this is an effective documentary, whether it's working or not. So I went to the Hindi version on YouTube. It's got 3.5 million views. At the time, something like 5,300 comments. So it took me a while, but I copied and pasted all 5,300 comments and I put it into ChatGPT and said, please give me an overview of the sentiment of the people commenting. Are these vegans commenting? Is the trolls? Or are these people that are being reached and they're committing to any sort of change? So to be able to go through 5,300 comments, that's the beauty of AI. It just did it. And that movie is reaching people. It is working. Presenting that information in the way that, the filmmaker has done has clearly worked. So to go back to your question about PETA, I would love to do the same thing, an analysis, because my gut feeling is it's probably more negative in terms of the comments. It's offended people, there's trolls, there's people suggesting this is an idiotic sort of way of presenting the information.
Yeah.
That's my gut feeling. It may very well be that there's a counterfactual there whereby people are angry about it, but it's still put a seed in there where they're thinking, actually, I wonder if there is some logic, and over time they think about it. I don't know enough. It would need a study.
I mean, maybe the call to action would be to watch Maa Ka Doodh.
Yeah.
Something like that. Because it's led you from a place of controversy and confusion to then, so that could be very interesting. I have heard very positive things about Maa Ka Doodh, and I would love to see that movie more mainstream.
Yeah.
If there was money being pumped behind the scenes, I would say this would form part of the strategy in India, getting Maa Ka Doodh in every cinema somehow. I mean, India works by just money, okay? If you have money, you can get anything to happen. So you get it in all the cinemas, you get it on billboards. I'd be super interested in that. I think that would really work well here, for sure.
Has Cryspiracy done well over here? Do you know? Okay.
They haven't launched here, technically. I mean, obviously they're online and everything, but they didn't. I think there would have been an interesting opportunity for Cryspiracy to have done a proper launch here with celebrities and get it into cinemas and all that kind of stuff, because I think the movie would have been very effective in India.
There's quite a significant chunk of the footage is based here. So.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's still an opportunity for that here.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for joining me. It's been such a nice conversation.
I've enjoyed the chat.
Hopefully we get that $10 million. So thank you so much, everyone.
Can't wait.